Hello there everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make this macrame flower ring, and this is what mine looks like here using these materials. So you have the focal piece there, the flower, and then you have a nice decorative ring band going all the way around. And this is then what it looks like on. So you have that main focal piece, that's the flower, and then also the ring band going around, and it's really nice and comfortable to wear as well. Because obviously it's soft, but also because it's soft it shapes nicely and molds to your finger. But at the same time it still holds its shape really nicely and it's quite nice and sturdy as well, because obviously all the knots that we're making. Now I actually made this ring to match a bracelet I previously did. It looks like this. So you can see it's basically the same flower there, and I just turned it into a ring with a decorative ring band instead of the bracelet, so you could really wear it as a set as well. But if you want to learn how to make the ring for it then keep watching this tutorial. So these are the materials that we're going to use. First of all, here we have the cord. This is a 0.4mm s-lon that I'm using, and this is a nice dark grey colour. You can obviously use whatever you want to. And then we need to use the beads. So I have 3 different sizes of beads here. I have one 6mm round. I just need one of them for the ring because we're just making one focal flower. And then I have 6 3mm rounds, and again we just need these 6. But then here I have some 2mm rounds, so just some tiny little beads. These are just the embellishment for the ring band, and how many you need really depends on the size that you need your ring to be. And I'm using these copper and silver metal spacer beads. I just like the way that they work well with the cord here, the colours. You can obviously use whatever kinds of beads and also what colour combinations that you want to. So let's get all the materials together here and let's get started. So then we need some lengths of our cord. So what I have here is 14 lengths of about 50 centimeters each, and these are going to be used for the whole ring. And then to begin with here, I've taken 2 lengths of a cord and attached them onto my macrame board here, and each their own slot with a bit of space between them. And I've also left a bit of a tail of about 15 centimeters. We're going to be using that later on, but to begin we're going to start making the midsection of the ring. So we then need to attach all the other lengths of cord here, so we're just going to take one at a time, and again I'm going to measure the same length of tail as in these cords here before I start making knots. And then we need to attach these by releasing one of the ones I have on the board. We're just working with one at a time. Then we're going to put that tail underneath the cord on the board here, and then we need to attach the loose cord to that by taking the longer tail back over the top and back underneath again, and then up through the loop here on the bottom. So like this. So it loops around that holding cord that's attached to the board, but through itself, so it creates a little knot. And then we need to do the same thing again. So take the tail, the long end, back over the top, back underneath, and up through the loop. And make sure you pull it through the loop there, because that's what makes the knot. And then pull that down, and there you have your knot, with one end of the same cord going out to opposite directions. And you can push that up a bit here. That's the first one attached. And you basically want to do the same thing. Attach another 5 on this side, so we have 6 attached to this one cord in total. And then once you've done that, we need to attach the remaining 6 cords to the other one here on the other side. And that's the exact same thing. We're just basically working in the mirrored image. So again, keep hold of that with the opposite hand then, and then measure the same length of tail again to leave, so we can work with that later on. And then put that behind, and then make your knot in the exact same way. And this is simply to attach these lengths of cord, but so we end up with a length from the same cord going out to opposite directions, because that's what we need to be able to create the whole piece. So attach all your cords like this. So now I have all the cords attached here, 6 on one side and 6 on the other side. Then I can just release my 2 holding cords, because we need to bring them together so we can make it one full piece. So what I'm going to do is take my right one over the left one, so cross them over like this, and then bringing them together like this, you can see that the 2 rows of knots where we attach them all meet up with each other and creates this little angle. So what we actually want here is about a 90-degree angle. So what I'm then going to do is the cord that's coming underneath, that's the one from the left side, is the working cord. So I'm going to make a double hair hitch with that by bringing it around over the top, back underneath here. So it loops around like that, and then you pull it up, tighten that. Then we need to do the same again. So around, finger over the top there, and then back underneath and through the loop. And before I tighten it, I just grab hold of the first half here, because we just need to make sure it goes in position, because obviously it's a bit loose just now. So tighten the first half, and then hold it and tighten the second half. And then that keeps it in place now. So we now attach the two rows there, and we have that 90-degree angle. And then the two cords that I just crossed over and made a knot with here, that are in the middle, I'm just going to bring them down. I just want to fasten them here so it becomes a little bit easier to work with. That's the handy bit about this macrame board as well. You have these slots so you can easily just take them in and out of the slots by fastening it, and if you need to use a cord, you can then just bring it right back out. So this is now the position that we're in, and we're ready to start making the little kind of flower, you could almost say. I'm going to use all these cords on the side to do that now. I'm going to work on one side at a time. So in this case, I'm just going to start on the right side. I'm going to put the other ones out of the way, and you can always move your board a bit to make it easier to work with. Get it in the right position, in the right angles. So like this. And then make sure that these knots here on that length of cord are nice and tight together. So what we're going to do is start from the inner cord. So these two in the middle that are coming straight down are going to have the large bead on them. So we're not using that for now. I'm going to take the furthest left one here, I'm on the right side, bring that over all the others, so basically out away from the piece. And then we need to start making a row here. So I'm then going to grab the very next cord that's coming underneath. Make sure you always grab the very next one, separate them out properly. And then that's going to be the first working cord, and this one that's going over all the others is a holding cord. So I'm going to bring the working cord around my finger here and back underneath and through the loop. So it loops around the cord just like this, like a 6 you could say. Then I'm going to tighten this, making sure that it gets tight right underneath that previous row by pushing up the holding cord a little bit, just like that. And then do one more to make it a double half hitch with the same cord, and then tighten that, just like that. And that's that first one used. And now move on to the very next cord. Making sure these stay nice and close together. Do the same thing. Make a double half hitch. Just like this. And now grab the next one. So basically work your way all the way out to the side here, doing the exact same thing. Make a double half hitch with each cord until we reach the end. So now I'm at the end. We have the holding cord going straight out to the side here, and the very last working cord we just used is this one here. And I'm actually going to keep using that now because we need to make the curve on the edge and come back in. So I've already made one knot with this, just like the other times, but now what I'm going to do is bring it back underneath the holding cord, and then we need to do the same thing basically, make a double half hitch, but we now swap hands. So it's still the working cord, so that means I'm going to use my right hand now and then make my double half hitch and then tighten that up, and then I want to make sure to kind of hold my holding cord in the same direction as the row is already going. So we don't want to pull it this way or anything yet. We're kind of just continuing the row for a bit, and then one more to make it a double half hitch and tightening that. And then we need to bring it back underneath again, so that's now 2 knots that we've made. We also now need to start bringing it around, so we're basically shaping this row as we go by changing the position of the holding cord. You can keep swapping your board around as well, it's really handy. So it's come back underneath again, swapping hands but otherwise doing the same thing. Make a double half hitch with the same working cord. Then as I'm tightening this one now, I'm moving further and further around. Like that, and then back underneath again. That was the third one. Now I'm going to make the 4th knot, and now I'm pretty much getting to the point where I've come all the way around, so my holding cord is basically now facing in the opposite direction, going back over towards all the others. So that's now this working cord used, and we have this little curve on the edge. So now this is where we actually need to bring in the bead as well. So to do that, I've got my bead here, the ones that are going to be on the outside, and then I need to grab a next working cord. So now we're moving back in the opposite direction again. So the very next one that you run into, and then I want to add my bead onto this cord. So just add it on here right in the end, and then let it drop all the way down, and you can see it's going to pretty much sit right in that little loop that we've made, a curve, and fit just perfectly. And then what we need to do is bring this working cord where we just added the bead on underneath the holding cord, and have the holding cord come back over all the others here, just like it was done before. It's now just going in the opposite direction. We're now going to repeat the exact same thing, except moving in the opposite direction from the first row. So take the working cord with the bead on, make a double half hitch, and tighten that, and then make sure when you tighten this, you're continuing the row that's curved around the edge, just like this. You can see it fits this perfectly, and then grab the very next cord, make a double half hitch, tighten that, and you want to make sure as you're tightening these now that we're holding the holding cord in the direction, so basically it's going to end up meeting up right with the beginning of what's technically the same row because we curved it around, so we end up with this kind of little petal thing. So when you tighten it, make sure that this cord meets up with the very beginning of the same row. So keep doing this, grab the very next cord, working your way in towards that beginning point again. So we end up making basically a point when the ends of the row meet up. And the last double half hitch, just like this, and you can see we have this nice little shape in place now. And that's basically the first little petal. But what we need on each side here is actually 3 of them, so that just means we need to repeat now. So I'm taking the same holding cord that I used throughout this one, and we need to bring that now in the opposite direction again to make the next petal the beginning of it. The other cords, that are the working cords, still coming straight down underneath them, and then we just want to start with the next one, and this is basically the exact same thing as what I just showed you. So you just want to make a double half hitch with the first one, and then you can see the holding cord just comes straight back out again to create the next row, and make sure again that these rows are nice and tight underneath each other, and then you just continue like this till the edge where you then make your curve coming back in the opposite direction, add your bead, and then finish off that petal, and then you do that a 3rd time, and that's basically all the petals here on this one side. So that's then one side done when you've done all 3 here. You just want to move to the other side and do the exact same thing, but obviously this is just mirrored from the other side because we then start with the inner one again, but this is now the furthest to the right out of this group. Bring that over all the others, and then take the very next cord after that, and then start making your double half hitches to create this first row right underneath the one we have where we attach the cords. Work your way to the edge, make your little curve there, add your bead in, and then move back towards the beginning again to get that petal shape. And you repeat that 3 times the exact same way as here, like I said, just mirrored. So that's all you got to think of, kind of hands have got the opposite jobs. But then just once you've done that, you're going to have the petals on both sides, and that's kind of, you could say, the main part of the ring. So now I have both sides done here. What we then just need to do is add that bead in the middle. So what I've done is added my larger round onto the 2 cords that have come straight down, coming right from that midpoint, and then pushing that all the way up, and then that's going to fit perfectly in that little space that we created because of the petals, you could say, we made, just like that. And I'm going to release the cords then because we need to then cage that in place. So what I'm going to do is separate those 2 cords out and then cross again the right one over the left one, and then the one that's coming underneath is the working cord. So I'm going to make a double half hitch just like that, and then tighten that all the way up just like that, and this basically cages that large bead in place but also gets the cord into position so we can then start connecting the outer edges here as well, because right now they're loose from the middle except for right at the top there, but obviously we need to become a pretty solid piece. So these 2 cords I just made a knot with are naturally coming towards their own side, so just leave the one going towards the right out towards the right, and the one going towards the left here is coming over all the other cords that are on the left side. So that means that this cord now is going to be the holding cord, and all the others here coming straight underneath it. So what you want to now do is grab the very first one that you're running into, which is actually the holding cord from the petals, and use that as the first working cord here. So make a double half hitch and then tighten that, and then we're just continuing right after the knot we just made to connect those two cords and cage the bead in place. Make the double half hitch just like that, and we're now building and continuing a row here right underneath the petals. Grab the very next cord, always making sure you grab the very next one, so separate them out properly, and then do a double half hitch with that. And again, making sure that this row of knots that we're making now is nice and close, tight underneath the last row in the petals there. So just keep doing this using all the cords here, working your way out towards the side. So that's one side now attached. Then I'm just going to go to the other cord coming from that midpoint where we cage the bead in place. That's going out towards the right side, and that's going to be the holding cord for here, because that's coming over the top of all the other cords coming straight down now. And again, just grab the very first cord you run into, make your double half hitch, so you can connect this side together as well. Make sure you get right close to the bead, and that this row also gets nice and tight underneath the petals. So just continue all the way to the edge with this one as well. So now that I have the midsection done here, and I have some work done, I can now start using some pins as well. Makes it a bit easier to work with, keeping it fastened down. Then what we need to do is make pretty much a little diamond or square on either side of this with the cords. But we're going to do one side at a time. So what I'm going to do is to show you on here, we're going to go right to the middle. So the two middle cords, one is technically on each side here. The one from the right, I'm going to cross over the one from the left. They're right in the corner. And then we need to make some rows of knots here. So what we can also just do is separate out the cords a little bit. So all the ones on the right side, I'm just going to put out of the way for now. Except that first one that we're using, that's crossing over towards the left. That's going to then be the holding cord. And I'm then going to make a double half hitch with that one, tighten that all the way up into that corner, and that's the beginning of this next row. Grab the very next cord on the left side here, that's coming underneath, make a double half hitch again, and then basically keep doing this all the way out to the end of this until you used all of the cords, except for the very last one that I have here, which is technically the holding cord from the previous row above it. We just want to leave that out for now. And also the holding cord that I just used now, I'm going to put out with it, so just put them up to the side. Go back to the middle, so the corner there, put the remaining out towards the left a bit out of the way so they don't get tangled up. Just grab that very first one, that's crossing out towards the right now and coming over all the others on the right side here, and we basically just want to do the exact same thing. So grab the very first one, make a double half hitch with one cord, and take the very next one and make a double half hitch again, and again repeat this all the way out to the edge, except for the very last one, which is the holding cord from the previous row. And once you've done that row as well, you can go back to the middle, because we're basically continuously swapping from side to side, making one row at a time. So I'm going to go back to the middle and grab the two very middle cords, one from each side, right in the corner. And then again I'm going to take the one from the right side, cross that over the left, and put the others here out of the way. And then the one that's coming underneath is the working cord. Make your first double half hitch, and then put that out of the way again. And then we need to make one double half hitch with each of these cords coming underneath on the left side. So basically you just want to keep doing this, making your way all the way to the end, building one row at a time, making your double half hitches here, always making sure you're grabbing the very next cord. And every time you get to the end of a row, you leave out the holding cord from that row. So just do the final one here. That's that row, and then the holding cord from it I just put out to the side, and then it's time to go to the other side here. Grab the one that's already going over, right from that corner, and then make a row here, leave out the holding cord, and just continue like this. And that also means that every time you do a new row here with step 1 down, because we're taking out a cord from each row is then going to get gradually smaller and smaller and quicker to do, until we basically end up right in a little corner down here. So now I have the little diamond here, and I've reached that point. What I then just want to do is add a bit of a frame to it, because right now the edges down here are open, that's where all the cords are coming out from. So I like to just add a bit of a frame that makes it a little bit more finished looking. So what I'm going to do is again just do one side at a time. I'm going to take in this case on the left side, the very furthest left cord, bring that over the others, then that's going to be the holding cord, and then grab the very next one. That's the first working cord, make a double half hitch, and then hold the holding cord so it comes straight underneath the ends of all the other rows here where they finish, and tighten that. Grab the next one and then make your double half hitch here as well, and just keep doing this until you reach the point. You used all the cords on this side, and then you want to repeat the same thing on the other side, but again obviously that's just mirrored, so you're swapping hands, taking the very outer cord, bringing it into the middle basically. Just going to finish up this row, grab the very final cord, and then do the other side, grab the very outer one, bring it over all the others, and then start making the row here. So that now finishes off that edge as well. And you just keep going until you used all of them, including the holding cord we just brought in basically from the other side. Then you'll have a complete diamond here, and it'll be nice and finished on the edges. And this is then what it looks like. And once you've done this, you then also want to do this diamond on the other side, the exact same steps that I just showed you here. So both of them sides become the same, and we kind of get this whole midsection nice and even, and then we can start working on the sides and obviously bringing the two sides together as well. So now we're at this point here, and we have our diamonds in place. Then it's time to start making the next part of it, which is going to end up being the ring band. So I'm going to just work on one side at a time here. I'm going to repeat the same thing. So what we're going to start with is we're going to work from side to side again. So I'm going to start with my left side. It doesn't really matter what side you start with, this is what comes natural to me. And I'm going to take out the first two cords on the outer side and put them out of the way, because we're not going to be using them. Because what we also need to do now is start getting rid of some cords, so we have less available at the end that we can then get rid of then. So I'm going to get rid of some as we go, and then we need to start making some rows of knots here. So the next section, the next cord in, so the third one in total, but the first one out of this section are the ones that we have left we're going to use. First thing I'm going to do with that is add a bead onto it, and this is one of the 2mm ones. So a tiny little bead just onto that cord, and then let it drop all the way down just like that. And then we need to start making some knots here. So this cord with the bead on, I'm going to then bring that underneath the very next cord, just like this, and because it's coming underneath, that means that that's the working cord, and the other one here is the holding cord. Then I'm going to make a double half hitch, make sure that bead stays on the outside here, so once we tighten this knot, it gets trapped in place, and it just sits right in that little corner there, just to add a bit of embellishment. So that's one knot, so I'm going to just put this holding cord out of the way. Then we'll move on to the next cord, the very next one that you run into. Now bring the working cord underneath that one, make another knot, double half hitch here, tighten that all the way up, so that now sits right underneath the first knot. So we're just making tiny little rows here underneath each other, and then bring the working cord again underneath the very next cord. Always make sure the working cord is underneath, and then make a next knot. So you can see we now have 3 there. And then the final one, do the same thing, bring it underneath, and then make another double half hitch, just like that. We now have these 4 tiny little rows with a bead just on the outside there. And once we've done it on this side, we then need to go to the other side and do the same thing. So again, remember to take out the very first 2 cords, the outer side are there. So the 2 outer ones, put them out of the way. And then the very next one, which is technically the third one from the outside, we just need to remember to add the bead first of all, and let let that drop all the way down, make sure it stays in that corner, and then we take it underneath the next card and make our first knot. And it's all the same movements and techniques now, except we kind of swapped hands, or the hands have swapped jobs, you could say. So like that, there's the first knot, bring the working cord underneath the next cord, make the next knot, just like this, and basically repeat now, just work your way all the way until you used all the cords that are coming towards this side, including the one that's coming from the other side here that we just used. So that's now both sides done, and what I just want to do is then kind of finish off the edges a bit nicely instead of having them open like this. So what I'm going to do is again just do one side at a time. I'm going to go back to my left one, take the very outer cord of the ones coming straight out to the side here, bring that over all the others, and now to make that little edge, what I'm going to do is grab the very next cord that's coming underneath. That's now the working cord. Make a double half hitch, and you can see this knot is going to be tightened in the opposite direction to the ones coming out to the side here. So it's basically finishing off the ends of these rows nicely and neatly. Grab the very next one, just like this, and again working away all the way towards the middle, one cord at a time, making one knot at a time, like that, and the very last one here on this side. Tighten that so we get all the way into the middle, and then this side is done, and then we need to go to the other side and do the exact same thing, but obviously again working mirrored. So grab the very outer one, and then bring it across the others and start making your knots with the cords that are coming underneath, and just doing one at a time. And we're then kind of building this row on the edge. It just finishes it off nicely, and we're then also bringing the two sides together, you could say, right there in the middle. Just doing one at a time here, and then the final one, the two right in the middle there, connect them together by doing the last knot, just like that, and you then have it finished off nicely just like there. So now I want to step down to the next section here, and we're basically going to repeat the same thing, except we're going to use less cords. So again, I want to get rid of some more cords, so that means the outer two on each side are going to be put out of the way, just like we did up here. So just put them out of the way so we don't get tangled up with them, and then we have three left on each side. So I'm going to start the exact same way, grab the very first one of them, the outer one here of the three. You just want to remember to add a bead onto it before we start making the knots, just to add that nice embellishment in that little corner. Let it drop all the way down, and then take this cord with the bead on, bring it underneath the very next one. Make sure the bead stays tucked into that corner, then tighten your knot in the exact same way as before. Bring it under the next one. So again, just doing one knot at a time. These little rows going out to the side. And that's the one side. Repeat on the other side. So go straight over to that. The very outer of the three cords. Add your bead first of all. And then drop all the way down again. Bring it underneath the next cord. And then making one knot at a time here. Bring it underneath the next cord, and you can see it's basically the same technique. We're just using less cords now as the section we just did up there, and that also ensures we've now gotten rid of some more cords again, just like we wanted to. The final two right there in the middle, and there we go. And again, I want to do the same thing here, just make that little edge nice and neat. That means I'm going to go to the outside cord again, start on my left side, bring it over the others, and now use the cords that are coming underneath there to finish off the edge nicely. Working our way again towards the middle. The next one here. And once we've then done this side, again move over to the other side. You can see everything we do on one side we repeat on the other side, always working from side to side and so on. Do the same thing here. And obviously having less cords to work with also makes this section go a little bit faster. and the final two right in the middle, and then connect them with a knot, just like that. Now it's then also at this point you want to start thinking about the size of the ring. So what you can do to change the size is keep making these little sections, because I'm going to make another one here. So you want to make another one to get about an average size ring, and obviously the same on both sides, but then you can make more or less even depending what size ring that you need. So it's these little sections, you can make how many you need depending on what size of the ring that you need it to be. And obviously I can recommend using something like a ring mandrel. Then as you're making it, you can kind of take it off. If you think you've got enough on both sides, take it out and measure it, and then see if it fits. If it doesn't fit all the way around, you know you got to make a little bit more, then you just do another section on each side. So this is then what the piece looks like now. So you can see it's pretty much the whole ring, except obviously it isn't connected. So we have all these cords left to get rid of, and then also actually connecting the two sides of the ring band together. But what I'm going to do first of all is get rid of some of these cords because they're going to be in the way. So all the cords that are basically on the side, so all these ones here, I want to get rid of, and make sure to just leave these because we're going to use these on the ends to connect the piece together. So I'm just going to show you how I'm going to get rid of them. Because I'm using a synthetic cord, I can singe it down, which is quite a lot easier. If you're using a natural cord, you're going to have to use some glue. But what I'm going to do is take a pair of scissors and go in and cut off the excess, making sure I leave about 1 to 2 millimeters. So just tiny little ends left, like that. Take them away, and then I'm going to take a lighter here, and I'm going to use that to singe the ends down. It gets rid of them nice and neatly, but also it seals them in place, so it makes it secure. Obviously be careful because it is a naked flame we're working with, and it does get hot. But I'm just going to take that, singe the ends down, and then you can just kind of press them in a bit, and that finishes them off nicely. So just like that, and do that with all the cords here on the side of the piece. So now for the final step of shaping it and connecting the two ends in place, what we're going to do is, I'm just going to put it to the back here, and then we need to bring the two ends together. So like this. And what we want to do is basically the little points that we have on each end, we just want them to meet up just across from each other. And then what you're going to have is, you're going to have cords going to the sides here, but they're kind of naturally wanting to cross over the cords from the other side. So what I'm going to do is, on the bottom one here, you have two cords that are right further towards the tip. One is going to the opposite side. We're just working on one side at a time. So just take the very one furthest towards the tip, but on this right side in this case. And you can kind of try and get the other ones out of the way from that side. This now is going over the three cords on the opposite end. And what I'm going to then do is use that goes over as the holding cord, and then the very first one that's coming underneath is the first working cord. So this is kind of the fiddliest part because obviously it's not connected yet, so you might just need to hold on to some things using as many fingers or hands as you can really. But the one coming over the others is the holding cord, and the first one underneath is a working cord. So I'm going to make a knot here. Just a simple half hitch knot, just like we've been doing throughout, and then tighten that so you can see as I pull it tighter, that really connects the two pieces. But this is just the first half, so it's still going to be loose. So I need to make the other half to make it a full half hitch, because that second half holds the first half in place. And now what I just recommend doing here, because this is the first knot, and like I said, it's kind of a bit fiddly, before tightening the second half, you just want to grab on. Just need to find the cord, it's there. Grab onto the cord you're making the knot with and tighten the first half before you tighten the second half in place. So tighten that, hold everything in place while then tighten the other half of it. And that holds it much better in place, just like that. So that's the first knot there. Then I'm going to move on to the next cord. Again, you can kind of put your little finger in there, I find helps hold the piece steady, while I then hold on to the holding cord and make a knot with the next cord as well. So just the next one coming from the opposite end is coming underneath, and now it's much easier because it's kind of staying in place instead of obviously the two ends opening up. Make a double half hitch again. So we're kind of building a row, continuing actually the row that's coming from this first side, but continuing it over towards the other side. So like that. And then I want to connect it a little bit better in place. So I'm going to go back to the cords that were put out of the way down here. So just the ones we just used, take them out of the way. And then I'm going to take the second one from the bottom half down here. And now bring that over. That's also naturally one to come over the cords from the opposite end. So bring that across from them. And then basically just do the same thing. Grab the very first cord that's coming underneath from the opposite end and make your double half hitch with that. Again, making sure you hold the holding cord out tight. And that now creates a little row here underneath the one we just made before. And the second half here to make it a full double half hitch. Just like that. And that's now secured it nicer in place. And it's also made it nice and as seamless as it can be, really. So that's basically how I want to connect it. That's one side done. What I'm then going to do is flip it to the other side and just repeat the exact same thing. So that means we have the cord from the bottom here. The real one furthest to the point is naturally one to go over the other ones. So that means I'm going to let it. And then I'm going to take one cord at a time. First the very first one from the opposite end. Just separate them out here, and then make a double half hitch. Just got to get the right one. Is that one? Yeah. Double half hitch with that, and then double half hitch with the next one. So that's now the row continued, and then move to the next cord on the first side again, and also just do one knot with that. So that really is the connection point here, and it's going to end up being nice and secure. Once you've then done that, on both sides, all that's left to do is get rid of these excess cords, and you really just do that in the exact same way as I showed you on the cords on the side. You cut them down with a scissor and then singe down the ends, and then it's nice and securely finished off. And then when you've done all those things, you'll have your complete ring. And this is then the final ring when I got rid of all the cords here. And this is what it looks like. So you get a really nice look of that flower there, kind of the centerpiece, but then you also have a nice decoration. And with the ring band going around, and it's then obviously one full complete ring. So you want to make it the size that you want it to be. Now what I just want to mention regarding the size as well is these the end sections that are made, the small ones. In this case I have 3, that's just so it fits me. But for about an average size in UK, then you want to make about 2 of these little ones. Obviously it can also depend what materials you use, but that's just what I found, about 2 of these ones before you then connect the sides together. Obviously that's on each side. So that's what it looks like. So I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial here, and thank you very much for watching.